Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So today we are going to discuss about the exception and file handling. So how we just to deal out with the exceptions and basically how we perform out the file handling in Python programming. So this is the topic of today that we are going to discuss.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing. So make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video. Any queries or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.
So let me take you to the agenda, that what's the agenda that we are going to follow up here. So we are here at the particular place. We have the agenda and it starts with the introduction. First of all, I'll be giving you the introduction about that what file handling actually is. Then we'll be dealing about different modes of the file handling which we have, such as open mode, read mode and write mode. After that, I'll be letting you know that basically how we could actually add on the text and even count out the characters in a file. Then we'll be dealing up the readline function. I'll be telling you that what it is used for and what's the use of the readline function. Then after that, we'll be dealing with the exception handling, that how we handle out the exceptions if we have some in our programs. So for that, I'll be introducing you to the topic, that's try and except functions. Then I'll be taking you to the try with the else clause, that how we could use out the else clause with the help of the try function. And at last but not the least, I'll be taking you to the finally keyword, that what's the finally keyword is, when this particular gets executed, and all the things I'll be covering up here. Right, so hope you are very much familiar with the agenda that we are going to follow up. So let me take you to the next slide with the introduction to the file handling. Okay. So what do we mean from file handling? So whenever I just talk about the file handling topic, so we say that dealing up with the text files is completely known as file handling. Text files you all know, right? The files which we have extension as .txt, right? That particular files are known as the text files. So let's say you wrote out some text onto a file and just save that particular text file. Now, how to deal with that particular text file with the help of Python programming? Like, let's say if you just want to write some things into that file, you want to read out that what's written into that particular file, or any particular operation you want to perform onto that particular file. So, how you can do that particular thing in the with the help of Python programming, that's completely known as file handling. Right, hope you are very much clear first of all that what file handling means. So as mentioned in the definition as well, that dealing with the text files is called as file handling. Right, even in Python programming we have one another name for the file handling, and that goes as IO functions, that is the input output functions. So whenever I say file handling or IO functions, they both actually mean the same thing, that's dealing with that text files. Do not get confused into these things. Okay, next. So as I as well mentioned out that what are the places, what are the things that come under the file handling, what are the operations that you could perform. So in the file handling, we already have many functions, inbuilt functions, which helps us to operate out and do out the stuffs like opening of the file, reading the text, whatever is written, writing some things into the file, appending the text, basically altering out the text, deleting out some text, and all these operations you could completely perform with the help of Python, right? So as I mentioned that there are many different functions that are particularly involved up here. Now, after that, basically, I have one more thing here, and that is basically that what's the IDE that I'm going to use and what's the Python version that I'm going to use up here for doing out the practical for the file handling. See, one very important thing to let you know that basically what are the online IDEs you are having that do not support out the file handling technique, and the reason is that with the help of the py file, that .py, .py is basically your Python file into which you write out your coding stuff. So any of the online IDE, if that particular IDE is supporting the .py and the .txt file at the same time, then absolutely you could use out that IDE for writing out your codes, that online IDE. Otherwise, I would recommend you to download out an offline IDE. Now, there are many different IDEs which you can go ahead with, like you can use out the PyCharm, you could use out the VS Code, you could use out the Jupyter Notebooks, whatever you feel like you could use. Let me tell you my particular specifications that I'm going to use. So I'm going to use about the PyCharm IDE, and the Python version which I am using is 3.9.1. Right? If you have the same configurations, well and good. And even if you have some newer version of Python, then also it's absolutely fine. Do not take out the Python versions below than 3.7. Okay, some functions work there, some functions do not work. So I would recommend you to upgrade your Python version above 3.7. Hope you are very much clear with this particular, that what's are dealing with the text and what are the functions or operations which you could perform, and basically what's the IDE that I'm going to use up here for doing out the stuffs. Right? So now basically I'll be taking you to the next slide, and there we are going to discuss about the open, read and the write modes which we have in the file handling. So let me take you to that brief discussion of these three particular topics, that's open, read and write modes. Okay. As the name suggests for the open mode, so into this particular mode, what you could do, you could open out any text file with the help of this particular function, that's open. So this particular open mode is used whenever you just want to open out a text file for reading or for writing, for altering or for doing anything. So you use out the open function at the very first point. Now, one more thing which comes up here is that, let me take a very live example of this particular. Do not assume it as a text file. Let's say I'm having out a book. Okay, I want to read out a book. So how can I read out the book? I would be taking out that particular book. I would be first of all opening that, then reading out the stuff, whatever I just want, right? Same particular case applies here onto the text file as well. You will be saving out your text file onto the same folder where your Python file has been saved out. After that, the very first step that comes is the opening of file. Writing, reading, altering, all these things are the secondary part that you need to do. Like if you are not opening the file, without opening your file, how you could perform out any of the operations, right? So that's the reason whenever we do the file handling, whenever we just deal out with the text files, so the very first method, the very first step that we use is opening our text file. So that particular thing is performed by the open mode which we have here in the Python programming language. Hope I just made this thing very crystal clear, that what is this open mode and why we just use that here in the file handling, right? Now, next I'll be taking you to the read mode. After you have opened up your file, let's say you just want to read out some text from that file. Let me take the again example of the book. When I have opened out my book, so there can be two cases for opening out my book. First can be I want to read out something from that book, or even I just want to write out something onto that book, right? Only two cases could be there. So whenever is your first case that you want to read out something from your book, in the same case, whenever you just want to read out something from your text file, so into that particular case, what we do, we use out the read mode, right? So this is a mode which is used whenever you just want to read out the text which is already stored in your text file. So we use out this read mode, right? Hope I made this thing as well very much clear regarding the read mode as well. Next, your second case could be that instead of reading anything, you want to write out something onto that book. So same case goes for the file handling as well, that instead of reading out your file, you want to write something, you want to add some more text onto your file. So in that case, the write mode actually comes in place. So whenever you are willing to write out anything to add some more extra stuffs onto your text file, so in that case, we use out this write mode. So this is used whenever you want to write the text in your .txt file. right? So hope I made this write mode as well very much clear to you, that what it is used for, what's the case when we use this out, and why we just use out this write mode as well, right? So hope these particular three modes are very much clear, that what are these, how we perform out the functions, how we go ahead with the operations. Now I'll be taking you to my IDE, that's my PyCharm IDE, and there I'll be letting you know that basically how we could perform out the practical, how we can read, write, and open up the files using the Python programming language. So this is the PyCharm IDE that we actually are having, right? I'll be giving you a quick overview regarding this particular idea, then I'll be going ahead with the practical. So here basically, let's say I just make out one of the folders, that is the folder which I'm having. So what I would just do for making out a Python file into which I'll be writing out my code. So for doing out this particular thing, I'll be clicking on this file. Okay, and now here I'll be doing out the right click. So as soon as I do out the right click, this particular box would appear. Now I would just go on to the very first option, that's new. Okay. From this new option, I'll be going on to the number fourth option, that's Python file. I'll be clicking on that particular. Here you need to save out your file with any particular name. Let's say I'm going to give out the name as file, and that's the, let's say, file handling. Okay, click enter. So yeah, this is how your notebook actually appears out here whenever you have made out any py file. That's your .py file. That's a completely Python file. Okay, hope I'm very much clear. Next, so here we are dealing out with the text files. So it's necessary to make out one text file. See, now the two cases apply up here. Either you make out a text file, or basically you basically like take out one path where you already have one of the text files and put on that particular path here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make out one new text file here. Okay, so for that, again the same procedure, go on to your project, do out the right click, go on to the new option, and now in this case go on to the very first option, that's file. So whenever you just see out this file option, take this as it's a txt file, and let's say my text file's name is text only, and hit enter, right? So click on this and click on OK. So my text file has been made, and that is having the extension, that's .txt, this file. Okay, so hope you are able to see this particular file, right? Now what I'll be doing here is that I would be putting, okay, let me do one thing. Yeah, I'll be putting on the things and writing out my further program. So I'll be making out a variable, let's say that's if. Before that, okay, not here into the text file, before that I'll be putting on some text into this file. So I would just put on the text that, let's say this is the topic, this is the topic of file handling. Now, one more thing to notice out here, that this is a text file into which you are writing. So you do need not to put out any comment, any hash sign, or any double inverted quotations or single inverted quotations. Nothing like that is at all needed, because this is a text file. If you were doing out the same thing onto the py file, then it would have been a problem. It would have shown you errors. But as you had made out a text file, so it doesn't matter at all. Right? Hope I'm very much clear. Let me take you to the file where we have the Python file, and let's try writing up the code. Let's say I just make out one of the variables. Now this is known as a file pointer. Okay, make this as a file pointer. So f is equal to open. Now open is basically my function, the very first function that we are going to see. Let me put on a hash here, and let me wrote out here the first mode, that's the open mode. Okay, so here we use out the open inside this we'll be putting out the double inverted commas. Okay, now into that double inverted commas you're going to write out the text file name. So my text file name is text.txt. Okay, let me just do out one thing, because I just need to rename this out. So okay, 1 second, that is okay, rename file, let's do that, not right here. So input, okay, let's do the cancel file. Okay, let's go ahead with this particular thing only. Let's see what is going to happen out. So open text.txt. Okay, that's my file name. Come to the new line, and this is how you open out your particular text file. Simply you need to write out a variable, that's this I just wrote out here as if, because we call that as a file pointer. That's the reason I mentioned out of if. Other than that, it's not compulsory. You could put on any variables of your choice. We put on the assignment operator, and after that we use out the open function for opening out this particular file. Right, so as soon as the open file has been done, the next thing comes is that in which mode you want to open it out. You want to open in the read mode or you want to open in the write mode. So whenever you are willing to open in the read mode, in that case we write out here R. And whenever you are willing to open it in the write mode, so in that case we write out W. Okay, so we write out R for the read mode and W to the new, just come on to the new line here and write out here if will above f is equal to, here goes the open, into the bracket my file comes, that what file you want to open, so that is text.txt. Okay, putting out the comma here, again double inverted commas, quotations come out. Now here you mention out that what's the mode in which you want to open. Let's say I want to go on with the read mode, so I just simply wrote out here R. So it will automatically understand out that now you want to go ahead with the read mode. It means that you want to read out your file. You are opening your file for reading that. Let's come to a new line here, and I'll be making up a variable that what will we do is that particular variable will be reading out the text for me. So let's say my variable is content, a TENT, content is equal to, and my f is the variable in which I have opened out my file in the read mode, and now here comes my read function. Content is equal to f dot read. Come to a new line and simply I would be writing out here print, and into the bracket I'll be writing out here the variable that's content, because content is only the variable into which my file is being read. Right, it is being read and it is being stored. See, okay, before that let me quickly run out the program, then I would let you know what I was just like trying to convey out from here. Okay, no such file or directory, I was just willing that it would be happening. Let me make out a new file, click on new, go on to the file, write out here the name, let's say that's demo, hit enter. Yes, now I want out the txt file and click on OK. Okay, right here. So let me just close out the file from here now. Click onto this particular, write out here something like, okay, that's demo. And let me quickly do out one thing. Let me make out one more right here. So that's file demo.txt. Click enter. So yeah, now this is the complete correct file which has been made out. Please, yeah, one more thing to notice out here. Do not miss out the extension that you want to put on. Fine. So as soon as you put on .txt, now this is your correct file which has been made out. So I would just once again put on a text that this is a file handling topic. Let's say this is my text. Okay, topic. Now let's come to the back here. Now I would just change on the name for my file, that's demo dot and that's txt, and I would comment out the first line because now that's not needed at all. Let's run out our file here for a while. So okay, it's indexing, basically it's setting up whatever you have written out here. So it's setting up all of that, all those particular things. So this is one of the things which comes here onto the this PyCharm ID. Okay, I would just click on the run button above. So now let me just take you above. So right now you are having your output that this is a file handling topic. This was the text that we have written in the demo.txt file, right? This was the same text which we have written out. And with the help of the read function, we are able to display out this particular text here in this particular context. In the console of my PyCharm IDE, I'm able to get out this particular text. So this is how we perform out the read mode. This is how you read out the text with the help of the file handling techniques. Right? Hope you are very much clear with the first full read function, right? Now what I'll be doing is that I'll be taking you to the next mode, and that's my write mode. So what I would just do is that I would comment out all the above three lines, because now I want out my file to be opened out in the W mode. That's my write mode. So let's say f is equal to, here goes the open function. Okay, 1 second. Let me come out to this particular place. My file name is demo.txt, right? putting out a comma here, and I want to open that in the W mode now. After opening that into W mode, I'll be using out the write function, that what is the text which you want to write into your text file. So let's say I just want to write on the topics that write on the text that I'm learning file handling. Right? Let me come down once. Okay? It's the text which I just want to write out. So yeah, that's completed. Now, one thing to mention here very importantly, which I did not mention above, right? I'm mentioning out that whenever you are opening out a file, it's important to close out that particular file as well. Okay, it's a good practice, I would say. See, when I relate this to the example which I have taken for explaining you about the book, so in that case, what we were doing, in that particular case, we were having a book. So we opened it for you want to read or you want to write inside that book, that depends. So whenever you have opened that out, after doing whatever the operations you want to do, you will be closing out that particular book as well, right? Same case applies here onto the text files as well, that whenever you have opened out any text file, so you would be closing that as well, right? So that's the reason I have used up here f dot close file. Now I'll be running out my file here. Now here I would not be getting out any answer into the console file, into the console of my Python IDE. The reason is that I'll be directly getting out the text onto my demo.txt. And here goes that I am learning file handling. Right, I'm learning file handling. This is the text, right, that we have written up, right? This was the correct sentence. So I'm getting out that particular sentence written up here onto my demo.txt file. Right, so hope you are very much clear with this particular function as well, that how does this write function works. So I hope that you are very much crystal clear regarding the open function, how does that work, about the read function, and even about the write function, right? So now we have some more further topics, some more further modes to learn about. So I'll be taking you to the presentation right away, and then let's discuss about the rest of the particular topics. Now let's discuss about that how we can add the text onto that text file, and even how we could count out that what are the number of characters that we have added onto that particular text file. So let me take you to the next slide here, and here we have adding the text and counting characters. So let's first of all discuss about adding that text. So whenever I just want to add out any text onto that txt file, so in that case we have a function named that's append, append. So this is the particular append function which we use for adding out some data, some text onto your text files, right? So basically, whenever is your case that you want to add on these lines or you want to add on that particular lines, so we use out the append function. So the mode which we write here is double inverted commas and small a. As for the read and write, we used to write R and W. So for the append function, we used to write here as small a. Right? So small a, whenever you see that small a written, so quickly understand that out, that this is the place where anything is being added or written something onto the text file. Now, let's say you have one particular case that whatever the text you are adding on, you just want to transfer out or add on that particular text onto a new line. So for adding the text in a new line, we use out the operator that's \n. So \n is one of the other operators that's used for changing your line to a new line and then adding whatever the text is required, right? So for the append function, it basically helps us to add the text in your .txt file. As I mentioned, it is used for adding your text in the .txt files. Next, the mode used is A for appending, means adding or writing some text to the file. So whenever I just use out the A, so it means that I'm using out my append mode. It means that adding or writing out some text to the file. Then I have that for adding the text to the file in a new line, we use \n before writing the sentence to be added. So yeah, this is one more case that comes up. I have already told that, but one thing I was left here, that whenever you just want that whatever you have written up that comes onto a new line. I mean to say that like a new sentence is being appeared in a new line. You want to append the things onto a new line. So in that case, use out that backslash n in the starting of the sentence, not at the last. Okay, use that in the starting of the sentence. Then it will particularly take you to a new line and display your sentence in a fresh new line. Right? So hope I'm very much clear with the append function, that what it is used for and how we use that out, what are the specifications and what is the mode that we used up here. Then we have the next topic, that's counting the characters. Now we have that how you can count out the characters. So it comes with the help of the len function, len. Okay, so len is the function which is basically used for counting out the characters, right? That what is the total number of characters which you are having into your file. So that particular operation, that particular thing can be added, can be performed with the help of the len function. So what do you do? Basically, first of all, you open up your file and you just read out your file using some function that we already have, open and read functions. After reading out the file, and that what it takes to written onto the file, you just apply out the len function. Okay, you just simply apply out a len function, and that particular len function is being applied in a variable. I mean to say that you put on a variable, use the assignment operator, and the variable in which you have opened your file in the read mode, with the help of that particular variable, you use out the len function. And as soon as all the things are done up here, we simply get out the total count of the characters which you have in your text file. Right? So hope I am very much clear regarding len function as well. Let me go once again, that it's completely used for calculating, for finding out the total number of characters, whatever you have used in your text file. Right? So first of all, you open out your file, then you use out what are the operation you want to use, and after that you simply use out your len function. So hope I'm very much clear regarding the append and the len function, that what are these two particular functions, what are they used for, and basically how to use them out. So hope you are very much clear with these things. Now I'll be taking you to the PyCharm IDE, and they will be seeing a practical for the append and for the len function. So now let's see that basically how we can implement out the append mode and the len function. So append mode is basically used for adding on some characters onto your file, and the length one is used for calculating that basically how many characters you are having here, right? So okay, what I would just do is that I would already add out first of all some text onto my demo file, because that has been erased because I have commented everything. So let's say I'm gonna write out here that I am learning, and here goes, let's say file handling. Okay, fine. This is one of the text that I already have out here. So I'm going to use out now my append mode to add on some more text onto this particular place. So the the short form that we use is A. The very first procedure that I'm going to do is that I'm going to open out my relevant file into which I want to append out that text. So that's for me demo.txt. Putting out a comma, putting out a double inverted commas, what's the mode? And the mode is A. So I'm going to put that out. Coming to the new line. Okay, now here you have, I could just take on one variable. Let's say that's add underscore text, one variable of mine. Here I'm going to use out f dot write function to write or to add anything onto my notebook, onto my file. Inside this, I'm going to write out that, okay, above what we have written, that what is already written, I'm learning file handling. Okay, let's write out that this is append mode, like this, right? Let's come on to a new line. Print out the add underscore text here, and at last I'm going to close out my file. So f dot close, putting out the brackets like this. What I would do is that I would add one backslash n here as well, so that whatever comes into a new line. And here it's time for running out the program. So Okay, this is basically coming because I have written out here add underscore text. So it's basically counting out the number of simple characters that I have added. So yeah, that's actually okay. Let's go on to the demo.txt and see what has come here. That this is append mode. Basically here what I'm getting a new line added here that this is append mode, and which I have added through the a function. So using this a mode, I have added out that particular thing, right? So hope I'm very much clear first of all that how this function actually works out, right? So I'm gonna do one thing simply. I'm gonna remove out these relevant things from here. So this as well. Great. And if I again run this out, so again it would be basically it will run out here. Now the downside I did not got any option, any answer, but here this again this sentence has been added. So the number of times you are gonna run this statement out, you're gonna run this program out, so it will basically add that much number of statements onto your relevant text file, right? Now, this was how the append function actually works out. Now, I'll be showing you about for the len function. So here goes the len function. Let's come down here. I would again open my file, but this time my file would be opened in the one second. This time my file will be opened in the read mode because I want to that I want to just add on or count on some of the relevant things, right? I do not want to write or append anything like that. So I simply want to count the total number of characters. That's the reason my file will be opening in the read mode. Okay. So here I'm going to write out, let's say my variable is data is equal to f dot read, and in the bracket I'm going to write out the variable that we are having as f. Okay, not this f. I'm simply going to write out f dot read and like this. Next, I'm having total underscore count as one of my new variables. And into that, I'm going to put on, first of all, the function that we are having len and the variable into which I have read out my data, which I have into my file. So that's the variable is only data. Okay, I will just read on data underscore read. Let that be. And here as well goes data underscore read. So inside the len function, you need to write out that particular variable in which you have used out that read function, which I have written up here. Okay. And at last, you are going to print out here the variable in which you have counted. So that's total count. And I'm going to write out like this. And simply last goes here the closing of my file, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run out this relevant program here. So my total characters, the total number of characters which I am having into this file is 87. Right, I'm totally having 87 characters onto this demo.txt file, right? And why I just get out one more statement like this? Because I haven't commented out this particular line. That's the reason one more line has came here, right? So yeah, hope I'm again very much clear that how to use out the append function for adding some text, and basically how to use out the len function for calculating, for giving you a count that total how many number of characters are present into your file, right? I hope I'm very much clear with these things. So let's move on to the next topic and see out the next functions. Now we'll be seeing one another function here in this file handling, and that's the readline function. Now I'll be telling you that what readline function actually is and how is that useful here. Fine. Now let's say we had seen about how to read out the text, how to write out the text, how to add on some things onto that particular text, right? We had seen how we can append and all these things are absolutely clear. Now there could be one case that let's say whatever text file you are having, into that text file you want to read out the text line by line. Like in the first line, whatever the text is written, first of all read that out. Then secondly comes that in the second line, whatever the text is written, read out the second text. In the third line, whatever text is written, read out that. So this can be a particular case that could be here, that whatever the text are here, you need to read down all of the text line by line, right? So for performing out this particular function, we have a readline function in the file handling. Readline, as from the name only suggests, that it helps you to read out the text, read out the lines, or the text, whatever is present in the line by line. Right, hope I'm very much clear. Now, next basically what we are having, so how to use out this particular function. So for using out this function, firstly you need to open out the file in whatever mode you just want, read mode or write mode, whatever you just fish out, you could open out the file. After that, you need to use out that readline function. So to read out the lines accordingly, we use out the readline function that is mentioned, and it will basically display you the lines in the form of like it will display the text in the form of line by line. Now, let's say into your first line, it's written learning file handling. Into the second, it is written read, write, and open mode. Into the third, it is written append mode. So whenever you are going to use our read line function, so first of all, it is going to display you the very first text, that learning file handling. Okay. Next, basically, it is gonna give you out the again you're gonna use out the readline function. So it will be giving you the next output, and that will be your very second line, that is read, write, and open functions, open modes, right? Now there will be after again if you use readline, then it is gonna display you the third line. So this is how this particular readline function actually works. This is how these functions play a role and help us to read out the text line by line. So after writing up the things, and after let's say I just said you that okay, read out this file line by line. So once we had seen about that read function, right? That is as well one function that is used to read out the text which you are having. But it differs that onto that particular function, you read out your text in a one complete go. Like if you do use out the read function, so at one complete time, it will display you all the text which is written up into your file. The case where you just want to read out your text line by line, one single line by line. So into that particular time, you use out the readline function, right? So hope I am very much clear with these two particular things that we have about the readline function and basically how to read out the text line by line. Now what I'll be doing is that I'll be taking you to the PyCharm IDE, and they will be seeing up the practical for this readline function. Okay, so here we are onto the PyCharm IDE, and now I'll be using up the readline function. Okay, but before that, I'll be writing one or more two more sentences onto my file. So f dot write, let's say I'm learning file handling. Okay, topics. I will just write that topics are open, read, and write mode. Okay, then okay, that's not open, it's open like this, right? And let me come to the new line. I would just write f dot write once again, and let's say I would write here that let's say next is append function, right? Let's say these are the three texts which are written. I would just run out this particular file up here, but before that, what I would just do is that I'll be commenting out this particular place, right? So comment that out, and now let's come to the downside and run out our program. So here we go. Okay, so nothing would be displayed here as I told you, because we have written onto the file, and this is my file. Now here I haven't used out the backslash n, that's why it is coming like that. So let me just quickly use out the backslash n in the starting, backslash, okay, not like this, and backslash n in the starting. And now let me quickly run that out once again here. So let me go on to demo.txt, and yes, now it's coming up, right? So I'm learning text file, I'm learning file handling. Topics are open, read, and write mode, and next comes the append function. And one more thing, if you just want to remove out these spaces, so do not give any space between the backslash n and between the sentences. Now it appears to be absolutely correct, right? Great. Now what I'll be doing up here is that I want to read out the text line by line. Okay, what is the thing that we perform? So I would simply write first of all the variable name with the help of which I have opened out my file. In whatever the mode, it doesn't matter how. So let's say here I have opened in the write mode. So it doesn't matter that what is the mode that you are opening using out. Simply it matters that what is the variable that you have taken, right? So you have opened out your file and the variable is f dot. And now here basically use the read line function like this, and this whole particular thing would go inside the print statement like this. Right now, I would just run out this program here for a while. Okay, 1 second. It's not readable. Where is my text file gone? 1 second, guys. Where is that particular folder for the great learning? Let me just quickly open that out. So here it is not, neither here, it is right here. So demo.txt, right? These are the files. Now let's quickly run out our program here for a while. Okay, not readable. Let's check out that what is the thing that we are making up here error as, and why it's basically not displaying as that thing. Okay, so it goes print f dot read line, and after that bracket is completely done. Before that, let me comment out these 3 lines, and let me open it in the read mode first of all. Now it's the time for running out the program once again. So here we run. And now here I got out my very first output, that I am learning file handling. So this particular output came because first of all one another thing that simply the opening of the file can be done in the read mode or the write mode, but you could not use any functions like this. So at that particular moment, I need to comment out these lines first of all, because at the same time I cannot write and I cannot use the readline function. At one particular point, I could not use out these 2 functions together, right? That was the reason I needed to comment out these 3 particular lines. So it read out the very first line of my text file which I'm having, and that was I am learning file handling. Yes, this was the very first thing. Now, let me come down here. What if I again use out one of the print statement right here, f dot read line, and put on the bracket like this. Now, if once again I run out my program, see, now what output I'm getting up here. So that output which I'm getting is topics are open, read, and write mode. So let me just do it like this right here. So when I used out my first readline function, I was getting my very first line displayed. Next case, when I just used out the readline function second time, so this particular line was getting displayed, right? So hope you have got the idea regarding this. Now let's see if I just once again use out this print readline function. So f dot read line and the brackets. Now what will happen? This particular will be displayed third time, means my third line would be displayed up here for the append function. So verify as these are the only 3 lines. I'm learning file handling. Topics are open, read, and write mode. And the next and the last one comes here as the append function, right? So hope I'm very much clear about these 3 readline functions, that how we just read out the line, read out the text line by line. Now, what if I just once again use out my readline function, as I was having only 3 lines into my text file. But what if I just once again use out my readline function? Now, basically, it would not display you any other text because there was no other line in my text file. In my demo.txt, I was having only 3 particular lines. Neither it will display you the error, nor it will display you the text. Simply, it will keep that particular thing as blank. I would remove out now this particular thing. And at last, my file is getting closed, because we all know that whenever we just open out a file, it's basically we need to close that particular file as well, right? So hope you got out this particular idea as well regarding the readline function, that what is this readline function, how we use this out, basically how we will be able to read out the text which is present in one single line, and that is completely line by line, right? Hope you are very much clear. Now we'll be seeing up the next topics. Now let's discuss about the try and except functions. So this is a particular point from where we start dealing out with the with the exception handling, right? So from here I'll be letting you know about how to deal with the exceptions. So the very first topic that comes under this particular one is try and except. So let me take you to the next slide here, and here goes the try and except statement. Now see, whatever the block of code, whatever the code you are going to write inside the try block, that gets executed whenever your code is completely error free. And if you have any error into your code, then basically your except part gets executed. See, take it in a way. Let's say you're writing out any particular code. So you just put on your main logic of the program inside the try function, right? After that, you add on one exception as well, that if basically if there is such some or error into your code which you have written out, so just display out that particular exception to you in the form of an error. It's not an error in the form, but I would say that it's a form of exception that would completely occur out. So in that particular case, you are required to put on those particular that particular print statement or anything inside the except. So if your code is not having any errors, then basically your try function would run and it will display you the relevant output, whatever is the required one. But if your code, whatever you have written out, that is having some issues, that's having some errors, so in that case the control of your program will go inside the except function, and then your except block will basically execute. Whatever the exception would be occurring, that would come, or if you have written any print statement inside that, that would come. Whatever the things you have written inside the except part, that would be displayed as an output to you in the form of an exception. Right, hope I am very much clear first of all regarding the try and except statements. After that, one more thing comes here is that with one single try, you could use any n number of except functions, except statements actually. Let me elaborate this a little bit. Let's say you had put on one try and except statement. Okay, you put on one try statement and one except statement. Now, the case is that let's say you just want to put on more than one except statements. So yes, basically you are completely allowed to put on that particular part here as an output, right? So now with one single try, it's okay. With one except statements, it's compulsory to put one try function. Okay, it's compulsory to put a pair of try and except. Other than that, with one single try statement, you could use any n number of statements according to your choice. Whatever you just wish out, you could use that much n number of statements, that is the except statements, with one single try. Right, so hope I am very much clear with the usage of the try and except statements. So whenever you are having no error into your program, so your try block actually gets executed, and when you are having any error in your program, so your except statement gets executed. If basically after that, when the except statement gets executed, so whatever the print statement you have used, either that will get executed, or if you haven't used out any print statement, so in that case you would be getting an exception as a form of a result. Okay, now the other thing as well which I mentioned is that a single try statement can have more than one except statements. So it's not compulsory to always put out a pair of try and except. With one single try, you could use 10 except, 20 except, 30 except, whatever the except functions, except statements you want to use out. With one single try, you are always allowed to do out that particular thing. Right, hope I made this thing very much clear to you regarding the usage of the try and except functions as well, that how to use them out. Now we have a syntax. So how to use out, what's a syntax for try and except? So first of all, you put on your try keyword, right? You put that out, put out the colon, come to the new line. So as soon as you'll be coming to the new line, you would automatically be getting out some tab spaces. So that spaces you will be getting out so as to confirm that yes, you are inside the try block, right? After that, you put on your relevant logics, you put on your statements, you just write out your complete code, whatever you just want to write onto that particular place, right? After that, come out of the try statement and then put out your except. Now you could simply print out write out except and inside that print a statement, or you could write out except exception as e. Now these two cases occur up here. What are they used for? So this except the exception as e, it is basically used whenever you want that whatever is your relevant error or exception that is occurring, you want to see out that exception as an output. So in that case, we use out except exception as e. And whenever is the case that basically you want that whatever the exception you are actually putting on, After that, you want out a print statement to be getting printed as an output. So in that case, you simply use out except keyword, and after that, you just use out your relevant print statement, right? So as we have learned about the try and except theory, now let's move on to the practical. Let's see that how it's completely used out, how to implement that out. So what I'm going to do here is that first of all, I am going to take out two inputs. Let's say A is equal to, I would simply mention out here as input, and inside that I'm going to write out a statement. Let's say that enter the number. Okay, come to the new line. Let's say I just take out the second one. I just write out here as it's the input, enter the number 2. Let's say this is number 2, and let's say this is number 1. So here again comes out the colon and like this, right? Now let's say I'm writing out the program for addition of two numbers. So here goes now my try function. Coming inside my try function, what do I have here? So I'll be starting up here with the things that, let's say I would declare a variable. Let's say that is C is equal to, now above I had simply used out the input functions only. What I want to write out the program for, I want to write out the program for adding of two numbers. But at none of the places I have declared that I want the input to be in the integer format, right? This is the case which is not declared. So now I have declared I would declare a new variable. Let's say that is C here. And after that, basically what I'm going to do is that, now as I mentioned that we will be writing out a program for the addition of two numbers. Let's say I'll be taking up the two numbers from the user here, right? Now when I talk about taking the input from the users in the number format, so in that case at none of the places I have mentioned that I want the input to be in the integer format. And if I haven't mentioned out that particular thing, so in that case it will automatically take in the string format when I use out the plus sign. So it would not give me the addition, it would simply do the concatenation of both of those numbers, right? This is the case which actually happens out. What I could do here, simply I could just do out the relevant typecasting. I could write it like this, and simply I would write it out like this. Coming to the new line, I would be using out one of the printf statements, and inside that I'll be printing here as C. Okay, fine. After this, I'll be using out my exception as E, right? This is my first sentence which I just told you right away, that we could use out this particular statement, that is except exception as E, and here I would be simply printing out E. What I'm going to get out a result, you all as well know out that I'll be getting out some exception here. The reason is that I haven't mentioned out any data type here in the starting, and I have mentioned here. So it would say that we cannot add integer and a string. Either it shall be integer or it shall be string, right? Let me run out the program and show you how these things appear. Okay, I need to give out the number 1. Let's say that's 2. And here goes the 6. So what I got here? Unsupported operand type for plus, int and str. So it basically means that the operand type, the operators which you have used out here, like the variables which you have taken, that are not supported. One is the integer and another one is the str, right? Now this is the kind of exception it occurs when you had made out any error in your program. The first way to get out the exception. Okay, now second way is that you could simply write out here except, and inside this you could add on a print statement that error in your try block. You could print out one simple sentence like this as well. When I run this out, so here let's say I enter out my number, let's say that's 3, then 5. So what I got? Error in your try block. But it's not that much specific that it was giving me with the previous one, that was except exception as E. Right? It's not that much specific. So in that case, we always try to prefer write down except exception as E. We always prefer to use that only. Right? So hope you got out the idea how exception occurs. Now I would typecast this thing as well, and now let's write out our program in the correct manner. And I would be running this at this particular place. So what I got as in first of all output, that enter the number 1, let's say that's 4, 6, 6, and now I got out my resultant output, that's 10. The reason is that I wasn't having any errors, so my try block executed, and if my try block executed, my except block will not get executed because I wasn't having any of the errors into my program which I have written out. Right? Hope I am very much clear with this particular try and except statements to you, that how we use this try and except, what's the syntax that we use, and what's the correct way actually for generating out the exception. So the correct way is accept exception as E, right? Hope I'm very much clear. Now let's move towards forward with the some other topics of the try and except functions only, that's in the exception handling. Now let's understand about the try with the else clause. So I just told you about the try and except right away some minutes before. Now let's see that with the try and except, how you could use out the else clause, at what particular time it would get executed, and all the things. Let's move forward. Okay. So first thing is that you could use out the first of all the else clause with the try and except statement. Yes, that's allowed. What is the set of instructions? What are the things that you need to follow up here? So whenever, let's say you use out the else clause with the try statement. So when you want to execute a set of strict instructions, whenever you do, let's say the case is that whenever you do not have any exception into your program, after that, after execution of the try block, you want one more statement to get printed as an output for you. So in that case, we simply use out this else clause. Let me give you an idea. Let's say you wrote out a program for multiplication of two numbers. You add on your except statements. After that, you use on the else clause. Inside the else clause, whatever the print statement you are going to use, so in that particular case, if you do not have any exception in your program, if you do not have any error in your program, then after the execution of the try block, that particular else statement will take place for the execution. Hope I am very much clear with this particular thing, right? But that will only and only be executed when you do not have any error into your program. When your exception does not actually work, then in that case only that else clause will work. The syntax is that you could simply write out first of all your try statement, your except statement, after that put on the else keyword. After putting that out, put on the colon and come to a new line. Automatically some spaces you will be detected, and after that you could add your relevant print statement, your relevant block of code, whatever you just want to be get executed if your exception hasn't been occurred. So in that particular case, you could use any of the things relevant to you, right? There is no such restriction that you would only use print statement, or you would only use the write out some logical things, nothing like that. You could write out anything in that particular case, right? So hope I am very much clear with the use of try with the else clause, that how you could use this out and what are the cases where it is particularly used out. Now let's see out the practical, that how we can use out the try and except statements with the else clause. So I'll be writing out first of all two inputs from the user. So A is equal to int input, and I would be writing out here, let's say that enter the number. Okay, enter the number 1. Let's coming to the new line, I'll be taking another input, and that's int. Here comes the input and goes that enter the number 2. Okay, so here I go with the small n. Now I'm going to write out a program for finding out that a number is even or odd. Okay, so I do not need the second statement, right? If I just write out the program for finding that a number is even or odd, so I do not need out the second number, right? It only works with the 1. So let's go ahead and write that out. So I put on my try statement. Come inside, my condition goes that if a%2 is equal to 0. Basically, if the number is divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, so in that case, print out with the help of if strings that I would write out the number first of all, that A is an even number, right? And if this is not the case, in that case, print out the else part, that print if strings A is an odd number, right? These can be two statements, two cases which could appear, that if the number is even, it means that the remainder is 0. In that case, write out that this particular number is even, otherwise print out it's odd. After that, here goes the except. I would write out except exception as E, put on the colon, come to the new line, print out the small e, that is my exception. Now, after this try and except, here you use out the else clause. So like this it goes. Inside this, you could write out anything. I would simply put on a print statement that that else clause got executed. Like this, I could print on one of the statements that the else clause got executed, right? So, okay, now what I would just do is that I would run out this particular program. So it's asking me to enter the number 1, let's say that's 4. See what it got me, it gave me that 4 is an even number and else clause got executed. Now, why did my else clause got executed? Because my try block got executed completely in a complete manner, because there was no error or exception in my program. That's the reason this else part got executed. Now, what I would do, let's say I just make out any error into my program. Let's say if I just put on one single this, okay. Now, if I run out my program, okay, so it is syntax error. 1 second, is equal to, and here let's say I just make on B, because B is one of the variables which we haven't defined. So let's say I made out B. Run that out here. Asking me to enter the number 1. Let's say my number is 3. See what it is giving me, name B is not defined. This is my exception that is occurring, right? And my else clause even did not got executed. The reason I have already told you that whenever your try block will get executed, whenever the logic which you have written inside the try block, that would get executed, after that only your else part will get executed. If you are getting any error or exception, then your else clause will not at all get executed, right? So I would again make out the relevant changes. So it's A and again it's A, and now if I just again run out my program, so now in that case I would not be getting any error, any exception like that. Let's say it's right. So 45 is an odd number, and here I got the statement executed, that else clause got executed. Right, hope I am very much clear with the statement for like how does this try, except and else clause work together. Hope I'm very much clear with this, that which part will basically execute when. Right, so we'll see up the next topics. Now let's discuss about the finally keyword. So now we'll be seeing up that what is this finally keyword in the exception handling. Let's go ahead. So yeah, here we have okay, I told you about the try and except functions in a very much detail. Even we had done out the practical as well, right? That was completely over. Then I introduced you to the else part as well, right? That the how to use out the else clause with the try statement. So that particular condition was applied at that particular case whenever you just wanted to like let's say you are writing out any particular logic or particular code inside the try block, and whenever you do not have any particular error into your program, it means that your except part doesn't works out, it doesn't execute at all. In that case, the else part was getting executed. Now what happens with the finally keyword here? See, finally is a keyword that would execute either you are having exception in your program or you are not having exception in your program. It doesn't at all matters for the finally keyword. It means that finally keyword has to execute, no matters you are having any exception or you are not having exception, right? You could use the finally keyword directly with the try and except, or either if you just want to add on the else clause. So in that case as well, you could just add on your else clause and your finally keyword after that. No matters that you're using it with the else clause, you're reading with the try and except, whatever you just fish out. But one complete case actually takes place here, and that's compulsory that whatever you're going to use out, like whatever the program or whatever the code you're going to write inside the try and except, no matters try runs or except runs, finally keyword will surely run out, right? Now let's quickly pay a little attention towards the write-up which I have written out here. So finally is a keyword which surely executes after the execution of the try and except block of a statement. So it means that finally is one of the keywords that is surely going to execute after the execution of the try and the except block of a statement, as I told you that particular thing as well. Right? Now, when I move towards the talking of the syntax, that how to use that out. So syntax is super easy and even the same as we have followed from the previous like topics. Simply first of all, you put on your try statement, put out your relevant code or the logic, whatever you just want to put inside the try block. After that, put on your except. So I would always recommend you to put on your except statement as except exception as e. It makes a relevant exception for you. It generates out a relevant exception. So if you have any exception into your program, so it comes to you as a completely defined one, so that you could get out a clear idea that okay, this was the exception that was occurring, so now I won't make out this particular exception into my program, right? This is what actually happens out. Then after that, we have the else part, that's exceptional. If you just want to add, you could, otherwise it's not at all compulsory to add out, right? And after using out whatever the relevant else condition you want to use or do not, next statement comes about the finally keyword. So at this particular place, you use out your finally keyword. Inside the finally keyword, you put out your relevant code, or you just want to put out a print statement, or you just want to put out some logic, whatever you just want to wish, you could just put that inside the finally keyword. After that, you execute out your program. So whatever runs, either try or except, that doesn't matter, but you will finally be getting the answer, the finally getting the output with either with a try or a except, and the finally keyword will surely come at the last. It means whatever you have written in the finally, that will surely be executed and given to you after the run of try or except, right? So hope I am very much clear first of all regarding the finally keyword, that what is this finally keyword, how we just execute that out, and what's the syntax, what it is used for, what conditions are applied and what not are applied. Right? So hope this theoretical part is very much clear. Now let me take you to the PyCharm IDE and let's implement out the practical for the same. So now let's execute out some practical for the try and except part, right? So I'll be using up the finally keyword here with the try and except. So let's get started up here, and okay, let me just come down at this particular place. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to write out a program first of all to find out which is the greater number among the two. Okay, let's say a simple program. So I'll be taking up the int, and here goes the input, and here goes my enter the num1, right? My first number goes here. Next, coming to the new line, what I'll be doing is that I'll be using second variable, and into that again as well, I'll be taking out the input from the user. So here goes that enter the num2, and giving out this space like this, right? So in num1 and num2 have been taken the input from the user. Then comes my try function. So try, my condition goes that if A is greater than B, right? So in that case, I could print out an statement, print, I could write out with the if strings, print if, I could put on that A is that's greater than, and here goes the B, right? A is greater than B. Coming back, adding on my else condition is, what we could print is that, print, okay, let me go above at this particular place, go adding the if strings. In the bracket, it goes like, okay, F will be out, not inside, like this, right? So yeah, I would write here B is greater, let me come down at a place right here, B is 1 second. So B is greater than, and here goes here as A. Okay, so B is greater than A. That conditions are satisfied. Coming out and using out my except function. So except exception as E. Putting on the colon and printing out here as E, right? This much code you absolutely understood because we already have dealt with these types of code previously, right? Now, coming down onto a place, here I'll be using out my else clause as well. Let's say that is as well getting executed. Okay, let's first of all simply add on the finally. After that, I would add that else clause as well. So here goes my print statement, and I would just write that finally keyword w keyword use. Let's say this is my print statement. Okay, fine. So I don't think that we have any of the relevant exceptions into our program because we haven't made out any of these. So my output will be, first of all, I'd be getting whether this any of the conditions from here, and at last this particular statement will be printed. Let me show you how. So let's run it out here. So as remember, for doing running out quickly on the blank space, we do out the right click on the run option, and here we go. So the number run I would enter, let's say 21. Okay, above one is as well not commented. 1 second. I'm so sorry. Let me just terminate this out from here. Okay, yeah. Remember the previous program as well we have written out. So let me just quickly here as well. Let's comment that out. Right, now it's the correct time for running out the program. So click on run. Enter the num1. So let's say that's 21 here. That's 34. So what showed me 34 is greater than 21 because my second condition was getting satisfied. It means the value for the B is greater than A. Right, and at last this statement came here that finally keyword used. Right, because this finally statement got executed. Now what I'm going to do is that I'll be making out some changes into the program. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, let's run this out now. Okay, so I'll be entering out the num1. Let's say that's 34, and num2 is let's say 1. Okay, I got my relevant exception that name C is not defined. Other than that, my finally keyword again got executed at this particular place. So it showed me finally keyword used. So I as well mentioned you when we were discussing about the theory that finally keyword always gets executed no matters that what are we using, no matters that try block is running or the except block is running. The finally keyword will surely run at the particular place. Right? Hope I am very much clear with this particular thing. Let me close it out here, and now I would be making it again the same here. And let me as well show you how to use out the else clause. Simply after the except you could put on the else condition. And 1 second, go back, hit out enter and write out your relevant print statement. So print or whatever logic you want to put, anything works out here. So I would just write out here print else part got executed. So here goes the executed. Right, so here else part as well I have added on here the finally, and now let's run that out. So let's say my num1 is 67 and num2 is let's say 32, and here goes that 67 is greater than 32. After the try we have used out the else part, so that's the reason else part got executed fast. Then we were having the finally keyword, and then basically my finally statement was present there. So this particular statement got executed. That's finally keyword used. Right, hope I am very much clear with the complete detailed explanation for the program as well, that how to add on the finally keyword, how to add on the else conditions, and all the things are very much clear, hope, right? Fine, so let's see the other things as well. So now basically I'll be discussing about the summary of this particular module that we have discussed. So let me just take you to that particular presentation as well. Now let's take out a quick summary of whatever we have learned in this exception and file handling module. So let me take you to the very starting from where we had started out, and there will be seeing up all the things. So we had started out with the introduction that what is file handling. So file handling basically deals with the text files. It means that this is completely known as when you are dealing with the text files, means you are opening, you are reading, writing, appending, all these operations are done onto a text file. and this particular procedure is known as file handling. The another name for file handling is Python file input output functions, file IO functions, or file input output functions. Whatever you just want, you could use that out, right? So particularly we have different functions here like read, write, append, alter, many other functions we are having. Okay, let's move forward, and here we described out the open, read, and write modes. So open was one of the mode that was basically helping us to open out a file. As we when we read out a book, so first of all, the first procedure that we do is that we open out that relevant book. Same here, whatever the file you are gonna particularly operate, first of all you're gonna open out that file. So that particular thing is done with the open mode. Then we have the read mode. So read was the mode which allows you to read out whatever is written into your program, into your file, into your text file. And write was one of the modes which basically allows you to write anything onto your text files. So these were the three modes that we had seen. We had also seen on the practical for these, that how to implement them out. Then we were having adding text and the counting characters. So for adding out some text onto your text file, we were having that function, that's append function. So append was a function that basically helps you to add on the text onto your file, right? That as well we had seen out. Next, we were having a function that was used for counting out the characters, that total how many number of characters you are having into your text file. So that function was len function, right? Now let's come, then we had seen about the readline function. So this was one of the functions which basically allows you to print out your relevant written out text line by line, whichever text you have written into your into text file. So it allows you to print out all the text line by line as an output for you, right? Then we had moved on towards the exception handling. We had seen about the try and except functions. So we had seen about the try and except statements. Whatever the code written inside the try blocks gets, it will only and only get executed when there is no such error or no such exception occurred. If you are having any exception, then basically the try block will not get executed and you will be getting out your relevant exception. We had seen two methods for writing out the exceptions. First for except, simply write out the except and inside the print statement write out your relevant statement. And the second one was you could use except exception as E and you could print out E. So it will automatically give you a relevant and the meaningful exception, right? So we had seen about the try and except. We had seen one more thing here, that with one single try you could use any n number of except functions, right? Then we had gone ahead with the try and the else clause. So I told you that how to use out the try with the else clause. So the the block of code written inside the else clause only and only gets executed when you do not have any exceptions into your program. If you are having any exceptions, then your else clause will not at all get executed, right? This was what we had seen in the try with else clause. And at last we had seen about the finally keyword, that what's the finally keyword, how we just execute in the finally whenever you do not have any if you are using out the try block or if you are using out the except function, either your try blocks executes or your except block executes, it doesn't matters, but what matters is that your finally keyword will surely get executed, no matters you are having any exception or you are not at all having any exception in your program, but your finally keyword will as well get executed, right? So hope I am very much clear with whatever I have just told you regarding this module of exception handling and the file handling, right? So hope you are very much clear with all of the topics which I had shown, even what are the practicals we have performed. Hope you all are very much clear. So I'll be stopping up here. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing. So make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video. Any queries or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.